So the first thing I wanted to talk about today is some recent potential fight news. Now, Dustin Poirier has just come off a big win against 11th ranked Benoit Saint Denis. I do need to point out that we both picked Dustin to win that fight.
Sure did.
Sure did. I thought that plus 200 was free money, and we both kind of said as much at the time. And so anyone who was watching that made a nice little bit of coin that weekend.
For sure.
So fast forward to this week, and given what we've heard out of Islam's camp, he's been talking up Dustin as potentially his most difficult matchup, sandwiched in with rumours that Dustin has started back into training camp. So it's looking like this matchup has all been made official for UFC 302, which I believe is in early June. Not 100% sure on that, but I think so. So what do you think of this matchup being made? And do you have any early predictions, assuming it gets booked?
Well, of course, I'm a fan of it being made. I know on my channel, Making the Walk MMA, if you haven't subscribed, on the Monday morning matchup, I predicted that this is something that should happen. Just because of the timing, I felt like Dustin he hit the timing marker perfectly. So yeah, of course, why not give a legend another crack at the belt? I mean, come on. But I do think that this should probably be his last crack, to be honest. That being said, as far as his chances, I think that obviously Islam is going to be favored. I mean, that's just, you got to give him his due. I do think that he is, as far as active fighters are concerned, he's the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. But I think that Dustin has learned a little bit from what he's been through. He hasn't learned about, jumping the guillotine, but he has learned about putting himself in bad positions, being calm when those positions came. When he fought Habib, he panicked when he was in that position. When he fought Charles, he panicked when he was in that position. In that fight against Benoit Saint Denis, I'm pretty sure Benoit had his back for a moment. And in that fight against Michael Chandler, also believed that his back taken, and he was able to get out of those positions. Now, I'm not saying that those Benoit Saint Denis and Michael Chandler are on the level of Islam as far as grappling, but the position and the urgency to get out of the position is the same. So I think that he's learned from that. I think that he'll be calm in the face of the fire, because he's going to get some fire. And I also think that as much as we try to make Islam Habib, he's not Habib. Not in the negative connotation, but in the fact that he fights differently. And so because of that, I think that Dustin will have more of a chance than people might give him. I think if I had to bet my house on it, I would probably bet Islam, but I don't. So I would probably bet Dustin. I would go with Dustin, but I mean, Islam should win that fight. He should.
Yeah. Well, when I brought this topic to you, I had a feeling you might feel this way, but this probably isn't going to surprise you on my side. Like, I hate everything about this. I hate it. Do you remember a few weeks ago when I said that Machachev's starting to grow on me, and that I wouldn't relish in him getting brutally flatlined? I think is what I said.
Yeah,
I take that all back. I'm diving off his nuts again. Now, wow. the only reason we're getting this stupid fight is because of Islam's inactivity. I think it's plain and simple. Now, let's be real. Islam should be fighting Gaethje or Charles. And now, yes. I understand that he couldn't do it at 300 because of Ramadan. You know what? That's fine. But what was stopping him over the last 5 months after he had his last fight? Or what was stopping him from fighting over either of those men at 301? If he fights Poirier in June, it will have been 8 months since he fought Volt the second time. Now, bear this in mind, because I'm going to use this as the rod to beat this fight to death with at the end. Now let's sidestep for a second and let's talk about Dustin as a contender. Does he deserve this fight? I would argue he absolutely does not. He's lost 2 in his last 4 against the guys who should be getting title shots in Gaethje and Olives. The 2 wins he did get were against a pea-brained balloon animal in Chandler, with more losses than wins in the UFC. And he only beat Hooker and the corpse of Ferguson, let's not forget. And he's also only beat a guy that's ranked 11th that I felt was fast-tracked and had beaten nobody elite. So those are his 2 wins in his last 4. He's also had 2 title fights already and was soundly beaten in both of them. I don't think he deserves another one for beating Chandler and Saint Denis in between losses as well. But what pisses me off the most about this being made, forget about how undeserving it is, and we know it's going to be made, I hate the timing of it most of all. Now, I think Islam's going to make light work of him, and I know you don't agree with that, but what bothers me is like how likely are we to get a quick turnaround from Islam after this fight? Let's assume that Islam fights again in 6 months' time. And let's be real, like judging Islam's entire career, it's not going to be sooner than that. So that means that the winners of the Gaethje and Olives fights will have had to have waited around until maybe December. Which means for the sake of booking this pointless fight, we don't see either of them fight for another 9 months. And only one of them can get a shot. So who gets it? The only way I see this working out and being not a ridiculous booking is if somehow Max wins and somehow Sarukian wins, because then you can kind of get them two to fight each other as an eliminator in the meantime for Islam in December. But ultimately, this lazy excuse of a fight booking and the timing does nothing but logjam the entire division again. And I hate every single thing about it. It makes no fucking sense. But I will say this though, this is not on Dustin Poirier. Of course, he should take it if he's given the opportunity, and I don't blame him for putting his hat in the ring. But this is all Islam's fault, and this is all lazy booking on the UFC, and I can just see it logjamming the division for the next however many months, and that's the problem that I have with it.
No, I agree with everything that you said as far as it log-jamming the division. This is a division that stays log-jammed. When has it not been log-jammed, really, is kind of more of a question. Like, when was the last champion that started to cycle through contenders? I mean, Charles Oliveira did.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, because when Charles Oliveira was champion, he was active, and it felt like he was fighting every 3-4 months. This feels like when we had Khabib as champion again. Yeah. This is what it feels like. We're getting 1-2 fights a year, maybe maximum. I don't like it. I don't like it. And it's going to end up being, like I said, if he turns around and fights in like October, as in Islam does, I won't mind this fight. Yeah, I will not mind this fight, because then you slot Gaethje or whoever wins most impressively in those. Because basically, I think what we're looking at is whoever wins most impressively in that Arman Olives fight and the Gaethje Max fight. Whoever wins most impressively in those 2 fights is probably who's going to be next. If he steps in October and faces one of those guys, I won't have an issue. I know that he won't. Are you excited for if Charles Oliveira wins? Let's see, he subs Arman Sarukian in the second round. Are you excited about that fight? I'm not, because I don't think that the fight would be any different. The thing is, even though I'm not excited about it, he deserves it. He deserves it because he's beaten everyone. Like he starched Beneil Dariush. He's beaten Poirier convincingly already, and Gaethje already. Yeah, he was supposed to be next in line, and obviously he got injured and whatnot. I'm not saying it would be. I think he's got a better chance than Poirier of beating Islam. For me, like the ideal situation, honestly, would be, and I think Islam would do the same thing to Gaethje as well. I don't think Gaethje would stand much of a chance against Islam either. Of those 4, probably Sarukian's the most appealing because he's young. He had a good fight with Islam before.
Semi-new. I mean, they fought before, but like
matchup. It's a new guy.
It's new at this level.
Once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's probably the one, and even Max would be interested if Max somehow.
That's the one to me
Gaethje.
that would be the absolute most interesting, is if Max wins. And I've talked about this before. It's the anomaly of the fact of how this affects so many different belts. You know, it affects the lightweight belt, obviously directly. It affects the featherweight belt, and it affects the BMF, like all three. And he could technically find a way to get all three at the same time. It's like he's becoming Thanos, the Thanos of the UFC. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, Max winning would be massive. It would be massive because I don't, as much as I love Gaethje and he has improved a lot, I don't like his chances against Islam at all.
No.
Whereas at least Arman provides he's a fresh title contender. Max, same thing. It would be interesting, but yeah, that's the issue that I have with this fight. Is that it's, but then, like I said, whatever happens at 300 could alter the timelines completely, and we might get a whole new series of circumstances come up from it. But I don't like
Could
the
be.